Hi, welcome to my channel Ruby Net Crochet Tejido. Today I'm going to teach you how to knit this beautiful toddler sweater. Super easy to do. I hope you guys like it and give it a try. And here is the list of material you're going to need to make it. If you are not already a subscriber, please subscribe and click on the little bell. That way you get notification each time I upload a video. Remember, I make my videos in Spanish and English. If you receive a Spanish video and you want to see in English, go to the main page of my YouTube channel. Then you'll find the English version in there. Also, you can send me a message and I can send you the link. And at the end of each video, I leave a playlist with all my English tutorials. For this design, I'm going to use Red Heart Comfort, medium 4, 100% acrylic. The color is Aran. It's like a creamy color. These needles are 4.5 millimeter or US 7. I have different type of needle for different part of my design, but you can use just one type of 4.5 millimeter. But for the border of the sweater, I recommend circular needle. That way you can work on the round. But if you don't have circular needle 4.5, you can leave it open and then work back and forth. And then after sew the side, the same for the cuff. I'm going to use these small Chiagu. They are 4.5. They are 9 inches or 23 centimeter. You can use double point needle for this or leave it open and work back and forth that part of the border of the sleeve. And you're gonna need one of these cable needle and measurement tape, very important. We're gonna guide ourselves by measurement, tapestry needle and scissors. We're gonna start making this piece. Is for the front of our sweater. I already have the tutorial on how to do this stitch. I'm gonna leave the link. You're gonna see an eye, you click on the eye and I will bring you to the tutorial, or at the end of the video go there and find the link. Do this piece first. I did exactly the same as the tutorial, 30 stitches, but I work more repetition. I did 8 inches, 20 centimeter. So go ahead, do this part, and then come back here where we're gonna do the body of the sweater. I'm gonna start leaving a tail long enough to cast on 68 stitches. I'm gonna start with a slip knot. And I'm gonna start my casting on. And once I have my 68 stitches, I will meet you here. Now we're gonna start netting in the right side and purl in the wrong side. Once you finish casting on and you do a knot to secure the first stitch, you're gonna net all your stitches and come back with the purl. And you're gonna work for 28 centimeters. Now, if you want to do a different stitch, you can do a different stitch here. You can net both sides if you want. Or you can do like me, or you can do the 6 stitch. I'm gonna net in the right side and purl in the wrong side. So I will meet you here when I have my 28 centimeters. I have 28 centimeters and I measure these to the back of the mannequin that I'm guiding myself, and I have to do 2 more centimeters. So when I have 30, I will measure here. I have my 30 centimeters, 12 inches. Now I'm gonna separate here. We're gonna work in one at the side, you know, the shoulder and the front, and some stitches. We're gonna leave the stitches for the back of the head, and then work on the other side. And as you look, I changed to my circular Shago needles 4.5. That way it's much easier to work all the stitches. So that's what we're gonna do. And when I work the two side pieces, I'm gonna leave the stitches. I don't gonna cast them off because when I work the part of the neck, I will have them in there ready to go. Now I'm gonna separate my stitches. I'm gonna work on 23. After I will work the other 23, leaving 22 for the center. I'm gonna work with this straight needle, and then I'm gonna leave the rest of the stitches on my circular needle. That way I can work with them later. But I will use this short one for these 23 stitches. So you're gonna net the right side and purl the wrong side. And you're gonna work the same amount of centimeters that you did for the back piece. In my case, 30 centimeters. I have my 30 centimeter, and what I did, I measured from this border to this one 60, 30 and 30. Now I'm gonna cast off the stitches, and when I finish the casting off, I'm gonna leave the tail long enough to sew the center piece. So I'm gonna cast off with knit stitch. So you're gonna knit the first one and the second one, and you're gonna pass that one over. So if you finish in the wrong side, and then you're gonna cast off your stitches with purl, you will leave the tail long enough to sew the side of your piece. So like this, I'm gonna cast off my stitches. Now for this side, we're gonna pass the stitches to this needle. That way we can work from the right to the left, or 23 stitches. I'm gonna leave those 22 stitches on that needle, and then I will work the 30 centimeters. I will cast off or bind off my stitches, and then we're gonna sew the center piece of the sweater, the front piece. Once you finish this, it will look like this. I tend to roll on the on the side because it's knit and purl, knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side. You always tend to roll. So what you're gonna do with the piece that we did first, this one, we're gonna sew that piece in here, like so. Okay. And then after you do that, we're gonna cast down the stitches on the border from this corner to this corner, and you have to make sure that it's multiple of one. That way we're gonna do the 1 by 1 rib, and we're gonna work the length from one side to the other one. But remember, you don't gonna work in here, just work back and forth. And then after we're gonna sew in here overlapping, and then when you open the collar, it will go out, you know, nice and wide. And then after we're gonna work on the sleeve. They're the same width, it's that just roll inside. And then after the border. Sorry, I forgot to mention that you're gonna need some pin to pin these two pieces together. And then now you're gonna make sure that it's nice and even on the border, and then we're gonna sew it in here, and we're gonna lose the ends on both sides, and then we're gonna cast on the collar. Once you finish, it will look like this, and then now we're gonna cast on the stitches from this side and the other side. Remember, they have to be multiple of 2. We already have 22 here, so the same amount of stitches, multiple of 2 that you cast on from this side, you have to do from the other side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place them on this needle and then pass it to that one, the same with the other side. That way it will be easier to start working the color. I cast on 24 stitches on each side, so now we're gonna start working here. One net, one purl, one net, one purl, and then come back the same, you know, the 1 by 1 rib. So I'm gonna start here, leaving a tail to loose later or to sew. Leave it long enough. I'm gonna start, I'll leave a little bit longer, just in case. One net, one purl, and this will be a little bit tight to work this first row, so the rest will be much easier once you do the first one. So you go that way and then back. Now for the second row, I turn this inside out in order to continue, you know, working back and forth, because with the circular needle it will be difficult to go back if you have the piece right side up. So that's what I recommend. So now let me tie this up. It's a little bit loose. I don't want to lose my needle in the middle. That might work. Sometimes they get loose a little bit. So I finished with a net, and this side that net is a purl, so I'm gonna start with a purl. And if you like to add a different color after you do a couple of rows of these, you can add a different color and do a few rows, and then the same color you can use for the border of the sleeve and the border of the sweater, you know, if you want to add color, but you can do just one color like this. I have the width that I need for mine, so now I'm going to cast off my stitches with a 5.5mm netting needle. That way this part here is a little bit more loose, and I'm going to cast them off as you're supposed to work on them. I will net the first one, purl the second one, and then I will pass over the first stitch over the second one, and I'll cast them off. Now I'm gonna sew the side, leaving 12 centimeter gap or opening for the sleeve. If you don't have the short cable, a circular needle or double pointed needle to work on the sleeve, and you want to do the sleeve, you open your piece, you measure from the center 6 centimeter one way, 6 centimeter the other, and then you work on those 12 centimeter you sleeve, and you give it the length that you want, and then you do the cuff. Leave a tail long enough when you cast off to sew the bottom of the sleeve and the side of your little sweater. But since my needles are small, I'm gonna sew the side, leaving the gap. I bought this one on Amazon. These are the ones that is used for knitting socks. Very short cable, so it's perfect for this small sleeve. I finished this side. I left a 12 centimeter opening for the sleeve. I cast on 40 stitches. I decrease in round 2. I knit the 2 first stitch together and the last 2 together, so I end up with 38 stitches. Round 3 I knit the 38. Round 4 I did a decrease. Again I end up with 36, and each time I did the decrease, it was the 2 first stitch together and the last 2 together, so 2 stitch decrease on those rounds of decrease. So round 5 and 6 I knit those 36. 7 I did a decrease, so I end up with 34. Round 8 and 9 I knit those 34. Round 10 decrease again, end up with 32. Round 11, 12 and 13 I knit those 32. Round 14 I did the last decrease, end up with 30 stitches, and from round 15 to round 44 I knit those 30 stitches. On round 45 I start with the 1 by 1 rib, and I knit from 45 to 50 with the rib stitch, and then on round 51 I cast off the stitches and I end up with the sleeve like this. So that's what I'm going to do on the other side. The decrease will look like this under the sleeve, and then that's what gives a nice shape to the sleeve. Now with the help of with the crochet hook, I'm gonna cast on the stitches, and I don't recommend to pull one stitch on each single stitch because you will have too many. I already tried that with the other sleeve, and the sleeve was like here was like huge, and then I was almost here, and then I have to undo the stitches and then cast on the stitches, leaving one stitch here and there until you have your 40 stitches, because otherwise it will be too many. So with the crochet hook, I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna pass the yarn through, I'm gonna place it on my needle, that first stitch. And if remember you don't have a circular needle, you can do this with a double pointed needle. You'll cast on 10 stitches on each of the 4 needles, and then with the 5th you work your stitch. If you don't have double pointed needle or a small circular needle, and then I recommend to mark the center and do the sleeve in those 12 centimeters back and forth like I mentioned before, and then after you sew the 2 together under the sleeve and under the arm. So when you pull this, make sure that you're not pulling the tail. And I'm gonna cast on my 40 stitches. I have 28 centimeter and I measure. I have my 40 stitches. I'm gonna tie a knot with the tail to secure the stitch. The first one. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna place my marker and round counter to keep track of my rounds. And I'm gonna knit the first one. No decrease in this round. And in this round you will have all the stitches facing the right way once you finish. We're gonna do our first decrease and we're gonna knit these two stitches together, and then you're gonna knit until the last two, that you will knit them together, and this is round 2. Now I'm gonna work on round 3 and I'm gonna knit all the stitches, my 38 stitches with no decrease. I finished round 3 and I have to place this a little silicone fingertip because it started to hurt from pushing this. It's not as slippery, you know, like when you work with this so tight. So you have to push the tip of your needle. And now we're going to work on round 4, and it's a decrease round, and we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to end up with 36 this time. So you're going to knit those two first stitches together, and then you're going to knit the rest. And you see I had to push the tip sometime and it already started to hurt. And I'm going to show you how you're going to do the last decrease in this round, and then from there I will let you know again on which round I did a decrease, and then you can continue with your sleeve. I finished round 4 with a decrease. Now 5 and 6 you're going to knit those 36 stitches, and then on round 7 you're going to decrease again and you end up with 34, and then around 10 decrease again, you end up with 32, and round 14 you decrease and you end up with 30, and then you will knit those 30 stitches from round 15 to 44. 45 you start the 1 by 1 rib, and then you work round 50, and 51 you will cast off your stitches. If you don't want this to be as narrow, you want a little bit wider, you can do the decrease until round 7, and then you will work those 34 stitches again until you have the length. And remember, it had to be multiple of 2. That way when you work the 1 by 1 rib is even. So work your sleeve, and I will meet you here when I'm done mine. I finished round 44 and 45. I finished round 44. On 45, you're gonna start with the 1 by 1 rib. So 1 net, 1 purl, 1 net, 1 purl, and you're gonna work the 1 by 1 rib until round 50. On round 51, we'll cast off our stitches. Once you finish your 2 sleeves, we're gonna work on the border. We're gonna do the 1 by 1 rib. I'm gonna cast on exactly the same as I did for the sleeve, but this time with a longer cable. I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna cast on exactly the same. And again, you have to have multiple of 2. When you cast your stitches. And then once you finish, you're gonna do exactly as you did for the sleeve. You're gonna do a knot with the working yarn and the tail to make sure this first stitch is not too loose. And then instead of working net like the sleeve, you're gonna work 1 net, 1 purl, 1 net, 1 purl until you have the desired width for the border, around 2 inches give or take. And if you want to do 2 by 2 ribs instead, you have to make sure there's multiple of 4 the stitches that you are casting on here on the border, okay? So I don't want to show you how to do this part because it will be exactly the same as we did for here, 1 by 1 rib. Para el borde me salieron unos 140 puntos y le di 9 vueltas. En la número 10 bajé mis puntos y es igual el 1 por 1, igual que el borde de las mangas. Well, this is the end result and I absolutely love this sweater and I hope you guys like it and give it a try and a thumbs up. And subscribe to my channel if you are not already a subscriber. And if you make this beautiful design and you want to send me some picture, you can do it through my Facebook page, Ruby Ne Crochet Tejido, or my Instagram, Ruby Ne Crochet Tejido. Please share my video with friends and family and in groups. That way you help me grow here in YouTube. I wish you have a beautiful day. Bye.